the Studio Cuts podcast with Taylor with WRRV.
This is the Studio Cuts podcast. Hey, it's Taylor from 92.7, 96.9 WRRV, and the Studio Cuts podcast is where we interview artists that were featured on Sunday Studio Cuts, our new music show on WRRV. Believe it or not, this is the last podcast I will be hosting for Sunday Studio Cuts. Don't worry, Studio Cuts podcast isn't going anywhere. Val from Middays will be taking over the podcast for me as I step into a new role in the future. I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Studio Cuts podcast each week. So for my last podcast, we'll be talking with Van Gogh, who just released their new single, Big Mistake. Where are you guys at right now?
Oh, good question. I myself am sitting in Onekama, Michigan, which is northwestern Michigan. Myself, I'm up here on vacation. Yeah,
Ooh.
And yeah. And Pax, where are you right now?
I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm actually sitting on my deck, looking out over the lake, and having a great day so far.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'm so jealous of both of you guys.
Upstate New York's nice.
Yeah, it is nice here. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful day today, but I wish I was overlooking a beautiful lake right now or on vacation.
You can come hang with us.
Yeah. Hey, let's just say it's good to be in Van Gogh, huh?
Yeah. It's awesome.
You guys are from Michigan. How do you feel about the Detroit pizza trend all over the country?
Corner squares are the best.
Yeah, man. Oh, it's all over now. Yeah, I live full time in Florida and then come up to Michigan with the guys, but it's all over Florida now too. And it's yeah. You knew it was going to take off at some point. You know, being from Detroit or being from Michigan, it's just too good.
It is. It's the best pizza ever.
Yeah, we had a Detroit pizza.
Though,
we had a Detroit pizza place open in the Hudson Valley earlier last year. It's so good, and we're right by the city, so I'm just like, wow, this is actually a contender for better pizza than New York.
Oh wow! Can you even say that on the airwaves?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Why did Van Gogh break up over a decade ago, and what made you guys get back together?
That's Max. You want to go first on this one, or how do you want to?
Yeah, just back when Elvis was happening, with Jason and Nate came from a band that they were in prior to Van Gogh, and they recruited Jonah and myself to come and play, and it was hopping, it was kicking, it was rocking and rolling, and we were having a great time. The problem is that Jason and Nate, they were getting a little bit of battle fatigue with all the years of touring and what they were doing, and so they ended up needing a break, and just kind of came out to be that way, and it was a little bit disappointing, but you know what? It was probably for the best, and we've all grown up over these years, and we were able to come back. To COVID, actually. I mean, if there's one good positive thing out of that, which I don't think there really is, but we were able to come together and do that because it opened up a whole time frame for us to be able to get together and actually chill, and everything was kind of laying low. So it actually worked out in the longer run. We're better now. We're better songwriters. We're better friends, and it actually is this very positive experience.
I will definitely second that. It really has been special, and sometimes like taking a little bit of a rest and a break is what you need, because everybody who we know that's a musician and everybody we've ever associated with in the music world has always said, look, this is in your blood and it never goes away. So you might as well don't try to fight it. And for us, there's just some magic with the guys and the four of us performing and writing songs together, and it's undeniable. So for us, it adds a layer of satisfaction to our lives that's so far and was so well needed.
And the chemistry between the four of us is just like out of this world. That's why it kind of made it so easy to get this back together. It's like the way we can write songs together. Somebody brings in a whole song or just a piece of song, and it just comes out totally awesome. It's just very honoring to be with such a great group of guys.
So you guys would say that the time apart made you stronger as a group, actually?
It really did. It really did. The friendships never died. We were always still there. We'd always check in with each other, every so often, and I would always throw out one of our songs to the guys that we had did demos for just for fun to say, remember this? And we'd always talk about it, and we'd create conversation. We'd create ideas, and then we'd kind of just, go back to our own lives, and it always kind of stayed that way. And then, as fate would have it, here we are again.
How has the band grown since getting back together?
Oh, wow. I mean, if you think about it, 2008 was different all the way around. Think about just technology and how things have changed, right? So, the communication, the social media, it was MySpace was still the most popular thing to go to.
Right, it
back
was.
when, in 2008 when we were really kicking it and decided to call it quits for a little bit. But I mean, relationship-wise, as far as us growing closer together and tighter, having that ability to communicate and be involved in each other's life, and even with me being in Florida most of the time, we're able to do things so much differently than we were in the past that it creates less stress on having to get in the car and drive a few hours across the state to go spend some time together. We can literally be more efficient. We can have Zoom calls. We can keep in touch more often. We can, it's changed the way that we're able to do business as a band, and it's strengthened our relationships as a result too, because we can get so much more done independently as well as musicians. So it's I think time and technology has been on our side.
And I may also add that with time, nobody stopped playing their instrument or writing songs. We continue to grow as musicians, and
True.
That is, time tested right there. You keep playing, you get older, you always get better.
And we have a lot more stories to tell now too, so that always helps with good songwriting.
Yeah, we get a lot of backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of story, what is the story behind the name Van Gogh?
Oh, that's, you would think there'd be a lot more to it, but quite honestly, it's always one of the hardest things for a band to do is to come up with a name and, something that everybody agrees on. But back in, when we were together originally, we literally got together in the basement. We were playing music. Things were sounding good. We were really excited about what we were doing. And we went out after rehearsal. And I think it was Ann Arbor, wasn't it, Paxton? Somewhere in Ann Arbor or Chelsea or something.
Yeah. Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea. And we walked into a bar restaurant, and there was a Van Gogh painting on the wall. And I think I looked at it and just said, what if we call it Van Gogh? And we all laughed.
Yeah,
so we just said, let's do it, And that's how it all started. Yeah.
Yep, we had the band name. Off we went. And then another thing, too, that was so cool about that is that we got on MySpace. Remember, we're back in the MySpace days, and we had to check it because you had to check these band names to make sure that there was nobody else, because you didn't want to have 50 other bands out there competing with. And at that time, that name was wide open for us. And so we definitely ran with it after that.
And your big single right now is called Big Mistake. What's the story behind this track?
A little bit of the opposite of the both of us, Bengal, right? Every good popular rock song, if you go back through time, and you go back to, call it REO Speedwagon, right? And you go Take It on the Run. There's always been a little bit of story about some sort of infidelity or the bad part of the relationship, right? And so Big Mistake is really a nice upbeat song that makes you want to, really dance, put the top down, and drive 100 miles an hour down the road. But the story behind it's a little darker, and it's really, just telling the story of infidelity and what that does to not just the person who on one side of that relationship, but the other side of the relationship too, and looking back on it and reflecting on it, and kind of an emotional roller coaster, but through a power pop, really in your face rock and roll alternative rock song. So that's it's right there out in the open what goes on with that whole song and the meaning behind it. But that's it. That's it. We won't talk about any details of that story, by the way.
What do you want people to take away from your new self-titled album?
Well, I think the first thing they should take away is it's just pure kick-ass rock and roll. And I'm sorry if I swore, but it's just really what it is. I mean, it's just, balls to the wall, just cranking out great songs, power pop, big choruses, great guitar solos, big drumming, but also take away our message and what we're saying, try to read into the lyrics and figure out what you're saying and be inspired or learn from it. That's my 2 cents on the record. Jason?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've always been into telling stories, and I think the coolest thing for me about this record and the message we want to send to everybody is, we wrote the 4 initial songs, Big Mistake being one of them, in 2008. We recorded the music and really, thought it was good at the time, but it was really more like demos. And so when we went back to finish it and we polished it up and put a little more time, effort, and energy into it and saw how special it was, we ended up with an LP, basically, or not an LP, but would you call it an EP, I guess, Bax, where you have 4 songs from 2008 on one side of that, and 4 songs from 2020-21 on the opposite side. And sonically, when you listen to the album, it sounds like the same band, but there's different points in our relationship, different stories, and together it makes a complete album. But it's over the course of 12 years. It's pretty special for us. It's a lot of fun to listen to, and for ourselves as well, just because it brings back so many memories of what we did back then and all the new memories we're creating now. And to see it take off and get some play on the radio and have people really love it and fall in love with it is so special to us that we love telling a story, and we like people to be able to relate and feel good about listening to the album. And we hope it stays timeless forever. So.
All right, guys, my last question for you. If someone were to come to your city, what is the one thing they have to do?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Well, we've already talked about the pizza thing, so we better go on from that.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, since when we met these guys, everybody met each other. Everybody was kind of spaced out. Like Nate, Jason, they were over on the east side. Jonah and myself are on the west side. Now, obviously, that's changed over the years, but this state has so much to offer with tourism, lakes, beautiful parks, really great things to see. Northern Michigan is very special, which is where Jason is at right now. That's like a whole other world when you go up there. It's just trees and mountainous areas where you can hike up and clear blue water. The environment here is just wonderful. There's a lot of things to do: camping, hunting, fishing. There's tons of great live music over here now that we're back up and running again. Some of the best music to come around, is here in Michigan, and we can compete with anybody, and we've got a lot to offer here. And you can just show up at the Detroit airport, and you can just pick a town, and there's something pretty cool to do. Jason, you want to expand on that?
No, I agree, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a special state all the way around, but if you're into the music scene, Detroit's definitely a great place to go because there's so much history there. And you got the Motown Museum, and Jack White opened up his Third Man Records now, which is a great place to check out. I mean, there's so much to do, But the pizza, Taylor, you topped it. You named it right there from the start. You got to have the pizza and some beer too. There's good beer in Michigan, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of good craft beer here too. We have actually Bell's Brewery is one of them, and so many more. But definitely, if you need to ever have a beer, this is a place to come.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason and Paxton, for hanging out with me and the Studio Cuts podcast.
Taylor, can't wait to hear it.
Thank you, Taylor. Keep on rocking.
Thank you very much.
Make sure to check out Big Mistake by Van Gogh. And make sure to check out Sunday Studio Cuts every Sunday at 10 p.m., now hosted by Val for Middays on 92.7, 96.9 WRRV. Thank you so much for joining me every week on the Studio Cuts podcast. I've truly had a blast bringing you exclusive interviews with these amazing up-and-coming alternative artists, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. It's Taylor, and that does it for me on the Studio Cuts podcast.